Look at you, playing dress-up like this room can't smell where you came from. Annabeth McLean's smile didn't reach her eyes as she blocked Evelyn Bishop at the silent auction table, fingers pinching the air like Evelyn was something sticky. Evelyn's badge, guest, hung plainly against her gown, but Annabeth read only skin and assumed staff. "You're here to serve, not mingle," Annabeth hissed, loud enough for nearby donors to turn and enjoy it. Evelyn opened her mouth, measured, calm, when Annabeth's palm whipped across her face. The crack snapped heads around. Security stepped in fast, already reaching for Evelyn. Evelyn didn't move, because Annabeth had no idea whose signature controlled their $850 million lifeline. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The Crystal Dominion Hotel's grand ballroom sparkled with wealth and pretense. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors, while Manhattan's elite mingled between ice sculptures and champagne fountains. Evelyn Bishop moved through the crowd like a shadow, her black designer dress chosen specifically to blend rather than stand out. "Another drink, ma'am?" A server offered her a fresh glass of sparkling water. "No, thank you." Evelyn's voice was soft but firm. She watched the room with careful eyes, noting every meaningful glance and whispered conversation. Beside her, Nia Dalton maintained a protective presence while pretending to scroll through her phone. "Ms. Bishop," Nia murmured, "Gordon McLean is by the east wall. He's working the Morgan Group for donations." Evelyn observed the McLean patriarch holding court among a circle of nodding executives. His perfectly tailored suit and practiced smile couldn't hide the predatory gleam in his eyes as he extracted promises of support from his audience. "The man never stops selling," Evelyn said quietly. Even at his own foundation's gala. Near the open bar, Annabeth McLean swayed slightly as she gripped her fourth martini. Her designer gown sparkled almost as brightly as her diamond necklace, but her face was flushed with alcohol and thinly veiled contempt. "These events used to have standards," Annabeth complained loudly to anyone within earshot. "Now they let the help wander around like they own the place. It's disgraceful." Evelyn felt Nia tense beside her. "Stay calm," she whispered. "We're here with purpose." They moved toward the silent auction tables, where luxury vacation packages and rare artworks were displayed. Evelyn examined a painting with genuine interest, aware of Annabeth's increasingly agitated glances in her direction. "Excuse me." Annabeth's voice cut through the ambient chatter. She stumbled slightly as she approached. "This area is for donors only. The service entrance is downstairs." The nearby conversations hushed. Evelyn turned slowly, her expression neutral. "I'm a guest, Mrs. McLean. Perhaps you should sit down. You seem unwell." Annabeth's face contorted with rage. "How dare you speak to me that way? Do you know who I am?" "I know exactly who you are." Evelyn's voice remained steady. "And you've had too much to drink." "Security!" Annabeth shrieked, her martini sloshing. "Remove this woman immediately." Two security guards approached uncertainly, noting Evelyn's obvious wealth and poise. Before they could speak, Annabeth stepped forward, her lips curled in disgust. "People like you need to learn their place." The slap echoed through the suddenly silent ballroom. Evelyn's head barely moved, but the red mark bloomed instantly on her dark skin. Phones emerged from pockets. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Annabeth smirked, expecting submission. Instead, Evelyn calmly turned to the nearby MC's podium. The microphone made a soft squeal as she lifted it. "Good evening, everyone." Her voice filled the room, clear and controlled. "I'm Evelyn Bishop, CEO of Virion Technologies. Mrs. McLean seems unaware that tomorrow our companies were meant to sign an $850 million merger agreement." Gordon McLean's head snapped up from across the room, his face drained of color. "We're meant to," Evelyn continued, "because as of this moment, that deal is terminated, effective immediately." The silence shattered. Phones began ringing throughout the ballroom. Donors backed away from Gordon as if his presence had become toxic. Annabeth's smirk melted into open-mouthed horror. "Thank you for the lovely evening." Evelyn replaced the microphone with deliberate care. Security guards stepped aside, no longer certain who they should be protecting. "You can't do this!" Annabeth's voice cracked with panic. "Gordon, do something!" Gordon McLean was already pushing through the crowd, his face purple with rage. "Bishop, stop right there! You're making a terrible mistake!" Evelyn walked unhurried toward the exit, her heels clicking steadily on marble. Nia held the heavy door open, a small smile playing at her lips. "Ms. Bishop!" Gordon's shouts echoed behind them. "You're throwing away millions. You'll regret this." The cool night air embraced them as they stepped outside. Car horns and city sounds replaced the chaos of the ballroom. Evelyn's car waited at the curb, sleek and black against the glittering Manhattan backdrop. "Nice work in there," Nia said as she opened the car door. "Though I think you just started a war." Evelyn touched her cheek where Annabeth's hand had struck. The sting was fading, but the memory of her sister Danica burned stronger than ever. "No, Nia. I just finished one they started long ago." Through the hotel's revolving doors, they could still hear Gordon McLean's angry voice competing with the growing sounds of pandemonium. Camera flashes sparked like lightning through the windows. The carefully orchestrated gala had descended into exactly the kind of scandal the McLeans had spent decades trying to avoid. Nia slid into the driver's seat while Evelyn settled in the back, her posture perfect despite the evening's events. As they pulled away from the curb, neither woman looked back at the destruction they'd left in their wake. The black limousine glided through Manhattan's nighttime streets, its interior silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Evelyn sat motionless, her face illuminated by passing streetlights. Nia stared at her from the facing seat, her expression a mix of shock and admiration. "I've never seen anything like that," Nia finally said, breaking the silence. "The look on Annabeth McLean's face when you took that microphone?" Evelyn's fingers brushed her cheek where the slap had landed. "Call Marcus. Emergency board meeting in 30 minutes. Virtual attendance is fine. At this hour? McLean's people are already moving. We need to be faster." Evelyn's phone buzzed continuously with notifications. "The video's spreading." Nia pulled out her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. "Already trending on Twitter. McLean Gala and Evelyn Bishop are competing for the top spot." Back at the Crystal Dominion, chaos had erupted. Through their network of contacts, updates poured in. Gordon McLean was cornered by major donors threatening to pull their support. Annabeth had dissolved into tears, loudly insisting there had been a misunderstanding, while security escorted her to a private room. "The Morgan Group just withdrew their 8-figure pledge," Nia reported, reading from her phone. 3 other foundation partners are reconsidering their position." "Good." Evelyn's voice was steel. "Send the board the gala footage. All angles. I want them to see exactly what happened before we meet." Within an hour, the slap video had gone viral. News outlets picked it up, running breathless headlines. "Tech merger implodes after racist attack," and "McLean Foundation Gala ends in violence." Social media exploded with frame-by-frame analysis of Annabeth's expression, Evelyn's composure, the shocked faces of Manhattan's elite. The emergency board meeting split dramatically. Half the directors were furious about the cancelled merger, demanding to know why Evelyn would throw away nearly $1 billion over personal pride. The other half sat in stunned silence as they watched the footage again and again. "This isn't about pride," Evelyn told them calmly. "Look at the Q3 reports I sent last week. McLean Holdings is overextended. They needed this merger to secure financing for their West Coast expansion. Without us, they'll miss their loan conditions next month." "You knew this would happen?" one director asked. "I've known who they are for 15 years, Evelyn replied. "I was waiting for them to show everyone else." Around midnight, Gordon McLean appeared on Bloomberg, his usual polished demeanor cracking under pressure. He stammered through explanations about his wife's medication interaction with alcohol, promising that the McLean Foundation remained committed to diversity. The hosts pressed him about past discrimination complaints. He ended the interview abruptly. Annabeth had vanished from public view, whisked away by the family's crisis management team. But the damage was done. Her slap had shattered decades of carefully maintained appearances. The limousine carried them through the city's empty streets to Evelyn's penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of twinkling city lights. Nia arranged coffee and documents, while Evelyn studied McLean Holdings' financial records on multiple screens. "Look at this," Evelyn pointed to a complex web of shell companies. "Their entire Pacific Rim development project depends on our security infrastructure. Without the merger, they'll have to rebuild from scratch. Months of delays, millions in cost overruns." "You weren't just protecting the merger deal," Nia realized. "You were gathering ammunition. For 15 years, I've watched the McLeans crush anyone who challenged them." Evelyn's voice was quiet, but intense. "They hide behind lawyers and PR firms, but underneath it's all rot. Tonight, Annabeth showed everyone what they really are. And now we show them what I really am." Evelyn pulled up more documents. "Their Asian partnerships are already nervous about the delays. Their Middle Eastern investors hate public scandals. By morning, their stock will start dropping. The board won't fight you on this anymore," Nia said. "Not after seeing the video. The board doesn't matter. I'm done being silent. Done playing their game." Evelyn's eyes were fixed on the city below, where news tickers were already displaying headlines about the gala. The McLeans think money and connections make them untouchable. They're about to learn differently. Her secure tablet chimed softly at 3:47 a.m. A new message appeared, heavily encrypted. "It's time, like we planned. K." The morning sun crept through the automated blinds of Evelyn's 45th floor penthouse office, painting golden stripes across her desk. She hadn't moved from her chair in hours, hadn't even tried to sleep. Her coffee had gone cold, untouched. The small USB drive felt heavy in her hands. The label was faded, written in her careful handwriting from 15 years ago. Danica. Evelyn's thumb traced over her sister's name. "You don't have to watch it again," Nia said softly from the doorway. "Yes, I do." Evelyn plugged in the drive. The video quality was poor, standard definition from 2008, but Danica's face filled the screen. She was 23, beautiful, full of life. This was recorded 3 days before her arrest. "I'm scared, Evelyn," Danica's voice crackled through the speakers. "Carter McLean, after the party, he followed me to the parking garage. I said no. I fought back, but—" She broke down, shoulders shaking. Evelyn's hands clenched as the memories flooded back. The frantic midnight call, Danica's torn dress, the bruises. Then, just days later, police at their door with a warrant, planted drugs in Danica's car, paid off witnesses claiming she was dealing at the McLean party. The video continued. "Annabeth McLean came to see me," Danica whispered. "Said if I knew what was good for me, I'd plead guilty. Said they'd make sure I got maximum sentence if I didn't. She called me a lying little—" Danica couldn't finish. Evelyn paused the video, Danica's tear-stained face frozen on screen. She remembered the sham trial. 3 years into Danica's sentence, the inmate altercation that ended her life. The official report claimed Danica had started it. The security footage from that day mysteriously disappeared. "I focused on success," Evelyn told Nia, her voice tight. "Built Virion from nothing. Told myself that beating them at their own game was enough. That staying quiet was smart." She stood, walking to the window. Below, news vans clustered around the building. The morning shows were already dissecting last night's gala footage. "But you weren't just building a company," Nia said. "You were building leverage. The merger would have forced McLean Holdings to implement real diversity policies, open their books, change their culture." Evelyn's reflection stared back at her, steel in her eyes. "When that failed, we moved to Plan B." Her secure phone buzzed. A message from Kendra. 1150 Park, Unit 12B. Come alone. The Midtown apartment building was understated but exclusive. Perfect for someone who wanted to hide in plain sight. Evelyn found Unit 12B and knocked 3 times, then twice. Kendra Shaw opened the door. The former McLean Holdings executive had changed in the 5 years since leaving the company. Her designer suits were replaced by practical clothing, her signature red hair now brown and cropped short. "You cut your hair," Evelyn said. "Easier to spot a tail when you change your look regularly." Kendra ushered her inside. The apartment was sparse, just basics and multiple computer screens. "I saw the gala footage. You okay?" "Better than Annabeth McLean's reputation." Evelyn settled into a chair. "You've been busy." 5 years of very careful digging. Kendra pulled up documents on her main screen. Every shell company, every bribe, every covered-up scandal. The racist emails are just the surface. Wait until you see the offshore accounts. Carter's still VP of Operations? Daddy's golden boy. Kendra's face hardened. Still assaulting women at parties. Still getting away with it. But I've got victims willing to talk now. And evidence, Annabeth paid them off. Evelyn studied the screen. How deep does it go? All the way to the top. Gordon McLean personally signed off on discriminatory lending practices. Their urban development projects are designed to drive out minority communities. And Carter, Kendra paused. Carter's gotten worse, more violent, more confident he's untouchable. Like father, like son. Gordon's careful. Carter's reckless. That's our way in. Kendra pulled up more files. But Evelyn, they'll come for you hard. These people, when cornered, they burn lives to the ground. Your company, your reputation, may be worse. They already took what mattered most. Evelyn's voice was ice. Everything since then has been building to this. Kendra nodded slowly. She walked to a closet, unlocked a hidden panel, and removed a steel briefcase. The locks clicked open. "Everything's here," Kendra said. "Financial records, emails, photos, recordings of Annabeth arranging payoffs, Carter's victim statements." She lifted a folder. "And this is Danica's original intake file, the real one, before they doctored it." Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she opened the folder. Crime scene photos spilled out. Danica's injuries documented in stark detail. The medical examiner's notes described defensive wounds, signs of sexual assault. And there, paper-clipped to the front, was the intake form with Carter McLean's name clearly listed as the assailant, spattered with Danica's blood. "They thought they destroyed every copy," Kendra said quietly. "But you saved one. I was a junior exec back then. Saw Annabeth order the cover-up. Been gathering evidence ever since." Kendra touched Evelyn's shoulder. "It's all here. Everything we need to bring them down. Not just for Danica, for everyone they've hurt." The afternoon sun blazed against the glass facade of the Javits Center as Evelyn's car pulled up to the curb. A wall of photographers immediately swarmed, their cameras clicking like angry insects. "Ms. Bishop, your response to Annabeth McLean's slap? Did you deliberately sabotage the merger? Are you filing assault charges?" Nia created a barrier with her body, guiding Evelyn through the chaos. Security guards formed a protective corridor, but microphones still thrust toward her face. "Is this about race, Ms. Bishop? Sources say you have a personal vendetta." Evelyn kept her face neutral, spine straight. Inside the building's relative calm, she checked her phone. McLean Holdings' statement was already trending. "We deeply regret any misunderstandings at last night's charitable event. Mrs." McLean was attempting to address a security concern when an unfortunate interaction occurred. "We are reviewing legal options regarding Ms. Bishop's subsequent actions, which have caused significant market disruption and shareholder losses." "Misunderstanding," Evelyn muttered. "That's what they called it with Danica, too." The conference hall was packed. Her keynote speech had drawn double the expected attendance after last night's drama. As Evelyn took the stage, whispers rippled through the crowd. Phones raised to record her every move. "I'm here to discuss the future of quantum encryption," she began, her voice steady, not tabloid gossip. For 45 minutes, she delivered a masterclass in technological innovation, never once acknowledging the elephant in the room. But beneath her professional demeanor, rage simmered. Every time she saw a McLean Holdings logo on an attendee's laptop or badge, her sister's face flashed in her mind. Her phone buzzed continuously throughout the speech. Notifications poured in as McLean's PR machine kicked into high gear. Headlines screamed, "Tech CEO's meltdown, signs of instability." Social media posts painted her as angry, irrational, playing the race card. Comments flooded Virion's pages. "Go back to where you came from." "Another angry black woman who can't control her emotions." "Diversity hire having a tantrum." In the green room afterward, Marcus Wells, her longest-serving board member, waited with a grave expression. "The stock's down 12%, he said without preamble. "Major investors are nervous. You need to step back, Evelyn. Let things cool down." "You mean, let them win?" Evelyn's voice was deadly quiet. Again. "This isn't about winning. It's about protecting what you've built. What good is revenge if it destroys everything you've worked for?" Her phone pinged. A new email from an anonymous account. "Don't destroy what your sister died for. Back off while you can." Evelyn showed Marcus the screen. "They're already trying to destroy it, but this time I'm ready." Back at Virion's headquarters, alarms blared through the IT department. Hackers were hammering their servers, probing for weaknesses. But Evelyn had prepared for this years ago. Critical data was backed up in offline storage, encrypted with algorithms she'd designed herself. "Another wave incoming," her head of cybersecurity reported. "Sophisticated attack patterns. Professional job. Let them try." Evelyn authorized additional security protocols. "They think they can erase us like they erased Danica. Not this time." She worked late into the night, coordinating with her team as they repelled attack after attack. The McLeans had money and power, but Evelyn had spent 15 years building a fortress. Every system, every failsafe, designed to withstand exactly this kind of assault. Social media continued to burn. Hashtags trended. Hash boycott Virion competed with Ahri Kadri, I stand with Evelyn. News channels debated the incident endlessly. Annabeth McLean's crocodile tears played on repeat. "I feel terrible about the confusion. I would never intentionally hurt anyone." Evelyn's mother called, worried. "Baby, these people are dangerous." "Your sister—" "I know, Mama." Evelyn's throat tightened. "But I can't let them keep doing this. Not to anyone else." Near midnight, she finally returned to her apartment. The city lights sparkled below, but she barely noticed. Her eyes fixed on the framed newspaper clipping on her desk, Danica's mugshot. Her sister's eyes were red from crying, but her head was held high. Even then, knowing what awaited her, Danica had refused to break. The article's headline read, "Local woman arrested for drug possession at society event." They hadn't even used her name. Just another nameless victim for the McLeans to bury. Evelyn touched the glass over her sister's face. "They're going to remember your name," she whispered. "Every one of them." The next morning's gray dawn crept over the city as Evelyn's armored SUV descended into the depths of an abandoned parking structure beneath an old factory building. Naya drove, constantly checking the mirrors while Evelyn studied blueprints on her tablet. "Third level down," Evelyn instructed. "Southeast corner." The garage was eerily silent except for their tires crunching over scattered debris. A lone figure emerged from behind a concrete pillar, Kendra Shaw, wearing a tailored business suit that couldn't quite hide the gun holster at her hip. "You weren't followed?" Kendra asked as they pulled up. "Clean route," Nia confirmed, stepping out to scan the perimeter. "But we should move fast." Kendra opened a weathered briefcase on the hood of the SUV. 15 years of Gordon McLean's dirty work. Shell companies, fake boards of directors, laundered profits. She spread out documents, pointing to highlighted sections. See this one? Riverside Development, LLC. Sounds innocent enough. But it's how they killed that affordable housing project in Harlem. Evelyn studied the papers. They bought the land through dummy corporations. Then let it rot, Kendra finished. Drove property values down in black neighborhoods until residents were forced to sell. Classic McLean strategy. Strangle the community, then swoop in as saviors with luxury condos. A metallic clang echoed through the garage. Everyone froze. "We need to go," Nia whispered. "Now!" But it was too late. Dark figures emerged from behind vehicles wearing tactical gear and face masks. One raised a gun. "The documents," a muffled voice commanded. "Hand them over, and maybe you walk away." Evelyn recognized that voice, even through the mask. Carter McLean, still hiding behind others, just like with Danica. "Funny," Kendra said, slowly reaching down. "I was about to say the same thing." She whipped her leg up, her stiletto heel catching one attacker under the chin. Blood sprayed. The garage erupted into chaos. Nia moved like lightning, her taser dropping another masked man. Evelyn ducked behind the SUV as gunshots rang out, feeling a fist slam into her side. Pain exploded through her ribs. Kendra was a blur of precise violence, her heels deadly weapons. She drove her shoe through another attacker's foot, pinning him to the concrete. "Get to the car!" Evelyn scrambled for scattered papers while Nia provided cover. A bullet sparked off the SUV's armored plating. Carter McLean stayed in the shadows, shouting orders as his men fell. "Coward!" Evelyn screamed at him. "Face me yourself!" But he was already retreating, leaving his hired muscle behind. Typical. Kendra dove into the back seat as Nia gunned the engine. Tires squealed against concrete as they shot up the ramp, more bullets pinging harmlessly off the reinforced metal. "Heritage Plaza!" Kendra gasped out between ragged breaths. "I have a safe house." 20 minutes later, they huddled in a sparse apartment while Nia bandaged Evelyn's ribs. Kendra paced, still running on adrenaline. "There's more," she said, "about Danica." Evelyn's head snapped up despite the pain. "What about her?" Carter didn't just assault her. He recorded her confession, her real statement about what happened. Then he had it destroyed when she wouldn't back down. "But," Evelyn prompted, hearing the hope in Kendra's voice, "but one copy might still exist. Court archives, buried in the original case files. They thought they scrubbed everything, but I worked there then. I remember a backup tape getting misfiled. If it's still there, it would destroy them," Evelyn finished. Danica's own words. She stood carefully, ribs screaming in protest. "No more hiding. No more letting them bury the truth. We're going public with everything." "They'll come at you harder," Kendra warned. "What happened today will seem gentle compared to—" "Let them come." Evelyn's voice was steel. "I'm done playing their game." Later that night, alone in her bathroom, Evelyn studied her reflection. Purple bruises bloomed across her brown skin. Blood matted her hair where she'd hit the concrete. Her designer suit was torn and stained. She thought of Danica. How she must have looked after Carter was done with her. How she looked in that prison photo, refusing to break. How she looked in that coffin, finally broken. Evelyn's hands shook as she lifted her phone. The live button pulsed red, waiting. One touch would start the avalanche. No going back. She remembered what her mother always said. Sometimes doing right hurts worse than doing nothing. Do it anyway. Her finger hovered over the button. In the mirror, Danica's eyes stared back at her through the bruises. The same determination. The same fire. This time, the truth wouldn't die in the dark. This time, justice would have teeth. This time, the McLeans would learn what real power felt like. Evelyn steadied her phone, framing her battered face in the screen. All those bruises would tell their own story. Every mark was evidence. Every injury was ammunition. The live button pulsed, waiting for her touch. The city lights twinkled behind Evelyn as she settled into her leather chair, adjusting the camera angle. Her study was intentionally lit to highlight the bruises on her face, the torn sleeve of her designer blouse, the butterfly bandage above her eyebrow. Every mark told its own story. She took a deep breath, wincing at the pain in her ribs, and pressed "Live." "Good evening," she began, her voice steady and measured. "My name is Evelyn Bishop, CEO of Virion Technologies. You may have seen videos of Annabeth McLean assaulting me at their charity gala. What you don't know is why I was really there." The viewer count started climbing. 1,000, 5,000, 12,000. The McLean family built their fortune on broken bodies and buried truths. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how. She held up a thick manila folder. These documents prove systematic discrimination in hiring practices at McLean Holdings spanning 2 decades. She began methodically sharing screenshots of internal emails. Annabeth McLean complaining about too many ethnic hires. Carter McLean directing HR to maintain our company culture by rejecting qualified minority candidates. Gordon McLean's memos about demographic considerations in property development. "But this goes deeper than corporate racism," Evelyn continued, her calm demeanor masking the fury beneath. "The McLean family doesn't just discriminate, they destroy lives." 50,000 viewers now. 75,000. The numbers kept climbing. She pulled up property maps of Harlem. Through shell corporations like Riverside Development LLC, they deliberately targeted black neighborhoods. They bought properties through dummy companies, left them to decay, and forced residents out when property values plummeted. The evidence was damning. Bank transfers, shell company registrations, emails discussing neighborhood rehabilitation while plotting mass displacement. "Your luxury condos are built on our graves," Evelyn stated flatly. "Your wealth is stolen from our communities." 200,000 viewers. Comments flooded in faster than anyone could read them. Then she paused, touching the silver locket at her neck. Danica's locket. 15 years ago, my sister Danica attended a McLean family party. She was 23, bright, beautiful. She never came home. Evelyn's voice remained steady even as her hands trembled slightly. Carter McLean assaulted her. When she threatened to report it, Annabeth McLean had her framed and imprisoned. She died there, alone. She held up police reports, court documents, bank transfers to corrupt officers. They thought they buried the truth with her. They were wrong. 500,000 viewers now. The internet was catching fire. "This isn't revenge," Evelyn declared. "This is revelation. This is truth breaking free after 15 years in darkness. This is what justice looks like." She displayed more evidence. Annabeth's hush money payments, Carter's threatening emails, Gordon's offshore accounts hiding millions in dirty profits. To every person the McLeans have crushed, silenced, or destroyed. I see you. Your stories matter. Your lives matter. And this, she gestured to her bruised face, this is what happens when we stop being afraid. The viewer count passed 1 million. "Your wealth was built on our graves," she repeated, staring directly into the camera. "This isn't revenge. It's revelation." She ended the broadcast but kept working, uploading document after document to a secure website. Within hours, the video hit 3.8 million views. McLean crimes trended worldwide. Financial news networks ran breaking coverage as McLean Holdings stock plunged in after-hours trading. Her phone buzzed constantly. Nia filtered urgent messages. Deutsche Bank suspending their partnership with McLean Holdings. The SEC launching an investigation. Protesters gathering outside McLean headquarters with signs reading, "Justice for Danica." Gordon McLean appeared on CNBC, his usual Polish cracking. "These allegations are baseless. Ms. Bishop is clearly unstable. We will pursue legal action." But the evidence was already spreading. Impossible to contain. Years of corruption exposed in a single night. Then came the message that made Evelyn's heart stop. A former court clerk. I remember that confession tape. Check storage box 47B. Case number 2008 CR 1142. They missed one. Danica's voice might still exist. Her truth, preserved despite everything they'd done to bury it. Outside Evelyn's building, the crowd grew larger. Signs bearing Danica's name. Chants demanding justice. The revolution she'd started was spreading through the streets. Her ribs ached as she stood, but Evelyn walked to her private elevator anyway. The doors opened to the lobby, where her security team waited. Ms. Bishop, her head of security, warned, "It's not safe out there." "It was never safe," she replied. "That's the point." The glass doors slid open. The crowd's roar washed over her like a wave. Hundreds of faces turned toward her, phones raised to capture the moment. Evelyn stepped into the night air, feeling the energy of the crowd. These weren't just protesters. They were witnesses. Every person here was ensuring the truth couldn't be buried again. She lifted her fist toward the sky, ignoring the pain in her side. The bruises on her face caught the streetlights. She was done hiding damage, done being silent. The crowd's answering roar shook the streets, echoing between buildings. Signs waved. More fists rose. Danica's name echoed in the chants. This wasn't just about one woman's assault anymore. This was about every victim the McLeans had silenced, every life they'd crushed, every truth they'd tried to bury. Tonight, those truths were breaking free. Tonight, justice had teeth. And this was only the beginning. Morning sunlight filtered through the grimy windows of the Queen's Courthouse archives. Evelyn adjusted her dark wig, while Nia kept watch near the entrance, pretending to study old property records. Kendra, wearing thick-rimmed glasses and a court clerk's badge, led them through rows of metal filing cabinets. "Box 47B should be in the back section," Kendra whispered, consulting a hand-drawn map. "Pre-digital records from 2008. The archives smelled of dust and forgotten paper. Their footsteps echoed off concrete floors as they navigated the maze of shelves. Each drawer held hundreds of lives, reduced to case numbers and manila folders. Here, Evelyn's fingers traced the numbered labels. 47B. The drawer squealed as she pulled it open. Nia kept checking her phone. "Security's still on their normal rotation. But we need to hurry." Kendra and Evelyn began methodically checking files. Case number 2008 CR 1142. Their fingers left trails in the dust. Minutes stretched into an hour as they searched. "Found it!" Evelyn's voice was barely audible. She held up a thick folder, hands trembling slightly. Inside was a stack of court documents, and, at the bottom, a VHS tape in a cracked plastic case. "State's evidence. Bishop, D." "Recorded statement," read the faded label. "We need to move," Kendra urged. "Carter's people could show up any—" "Going somewhere, ladies?" They spun around. A man in plain clothes blocked the aisle, badge glinting on his belt. His hand rested casually on his holstered gun. "Just doing some research," Kendra said smoothly, but the officer's eyes were fixed on the tape in Evelyn's hands. "Mr. McLean said you might try something like this." He stepped forward, reaching for Kendra's arm. "That evidence is part of a sealed case. Hand it over." "Don't touch me." Kendra tried to pull away, but his fingers dug into her bicep. "Last chance," he growled. "Or I'll—" The burst of pepper spray caught him directly in the face. He stumbled backward, cursing and clawing at his eyes. Evelyn lowered the small canister, expression cold. "Run!" They bolted past him, footsteps thundering through the archives. The officer's shouts echoed behind them, along with the sound of him crashing into shelves. Nia held the emergency exit door open. They burst into the morning sun, sprinting across the parking lot to their waiting car. Kendra slid behind the wheel, while Evelyn clutched the tape to her chest in the back seat. "Go! Go!" Nia urged, as another officer emerged from the building. Tires squealed as they peeled out of the lot. Kendra took a series of rapid turns through side streets, making sure no one followed. "That was too close," Nia said, watching the rearview mirror. "He'll report the theft." Can't steal what was legally submitted as evidence, Kendra countered. We just borrowed it temporarily. They drove to a small media preservation studio in Brooklyn, owned by one of Kendra's trusted contacts. The owner, an older man with kind eyes, took one look at their faces and asked no questions. VHS to digital transfer? Give me an hour. He disappeared into his workspace with the tape. Evelyn paced while they waited, unable to sit still. After 15 years, she was about to hear her sister's voice again, about to learn the full truth of what happened that night. Finally, the owner emerged with a USB drive. Quality's not great. Tape was pretty degraded, but the audio's mostly intact. They gathered around a monitor in the back room. The footage was grainy, showing a bare concrete room. A timestamp in the corner read 06-15-2008. Danica appeared on screen, wearing an orange jumpsuit. She looked so young, so afraid. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. State your name for the record, came an off-screen voice. Danica Bishop. Her voice trembled. You've requested this interview to make a statement about the night of March 3rd, 2008. Proceed. Danica took a shaky breath. I need to tell the truth about what really happened at the McLean house. She described attending the party, how Carter McLean had cornered her in his father's study, the assault, the threats afterward. Mrs. McLean, Annabeth, she came to see me the next morning. Danica's voice cracked. Said if I went to the police, they'd make sure Evelyn lost everything. Said they'd make her disappear like they did to other girls who caused trouble. Tears streamed down her face, so I stayed quiet. But then they planted drugs in my car anyway. Said they needed insurance to keep me quiet forever. The footage jumped slightly. Damage to the tape. When it resumed, Danica was sobbing. I'm only telling this now because I don't think I'm going to make it much longer in here. They have people on the inside. I hear them at night, whispering outside my cell. She leaned toward the camera, eyes desperate. Carter McLean raped me. Annabeth McLean covered it up. I need someone to know the truth. Her final words came in a broken whisper. Tell Evelyn. I did it for her. Evelyn collapsed forward in her chair, a wail of anguish tearing from her throat. On screen, her sister's tear-stained face stared back through 15 years of buried truth. Oh, God, Danica! Evelyn's shoulders shook with sobs. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you. Nia wrapped her arms around Evelyn, while Kendra stopped the playback. The small room filled with the sound of Evelyn's grief, raw and primal, released after years of rigid control. Through the window, sirens wailed in the distance. The city continued its endless rhythm. But in that dark room, time stood still, as a sister's final confession broke down the walls around a truth too long buried. The evening sun cast long shadows across the National Press Club's main ballroom. Camera flashes peppered the packed room like lightning as Evelyn Bishop approached the podium. Her burgundy suit was immaculate, her posture straight and unwavering. Behind her, a massive screen dominated the wall. Civil rights leaders filled the front row. Reverend Marcus Green, who'd marched with Dr. King, nodded solemnly at her. Several members of her board sat nearby, alongside top financial reporters from every major network. 15 years ago, Evelyn began, her voice steady. My sister Danica was silenced. Today, she finally gets to speak. She pressed a button on the remote. The room darkened. Danica's face filled the screen. Young, scared, wearing prison orange. As the confession played, gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones lifted to record. Several reporters covered their mouths in shock. When Danica named Carter McLean as her attacker, the room erupted. Cameras clicked frantically. Reporters shouted questions. But Evelyn held up her hand, demanding silence. Let her finish, she commanded. Let my sister be heard. They watched as Danica detailed Annabeth's threats, the planted evidence, the systematic cover-up. When she spoke her final words, Tell Evelyn, I did it for her. Many in the audience were openly weeping. The lights came up. For a moment, Perfect silence held. Then chaos erupted. "Ms. Bishop, how long have you had this evidence? Will you press charges against Carter McLean? Did Gordon McLean know about the cover-up?" Evelyn raised her voice above the din. "My legal team has already forwarded comprehensive RICO documentation to the Attorney General's office. The evidence suggests decades of organized financial crime within McLean Holdings, including money laundering, witness intimidation, and systematic discrimination. More shoots, more flashes. We have proof linking shell corporations to at least 12 other assault cover-ups," she continued. "Kendra Shaw, former McLean Holdings executive, is testifying before a federal task force as we speak." Reverend Green stood up. "This isn't just about one family's crimes. This is about power being used to crush those deemed expendable. No more." The civil rights leaders around him rose in solidarity. Phones buzzed as news alerts went out. Justice for Danica began trending within minutes. Outside, the crowd of protesters swelled. Their chants echoed through the building's walls. "Arrest Carter now! Arrest Carter now!" Evelyn's phone vibrated. A text from Nia. "Carter's private jet just filed an emergency flight plan to the Cayman Islands. Federal marshals are en route to intercept." Another message popped up. A viral video showing Annabeth McLean being escorted out of the Metropolitan Club. Former socialite friends turned their backs as she passed. Someone threw a drink in her face. "Murderer!" they shouted. "Prison for the McLeans." The questions continued for over an hour. Evelyn answered each one with measured precision, never letting emotion crack her professional veneer. But her eyes burned with quiet triumph. Finally, her board chairman approached the podium. "Ms. Bishop, on behalf of the entire Virion board, we owe you an apology. Your courage in pursuing justice, despite our initial skepticism, has been remarkable. We stand with you completely." Several other board members who'd criticized her nodded vigorously. Their support felt hollow now, but Evelyn acknowledged them graciously. This wasn't about personal vindication. After the press conference, Evelyn's security team escorted her through back corridors to avoid the media crush. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages of support, interview requests, and updates about the McLeans' crumbling empire. She directed her driver to the rehabilitation center where her mother was recovering. The familiar antiseptic smell hit her as she walked the quiet hallway to room 412. Her mother was sitting up in bed, watching the news coverage on a small TV. She turned it off when Evelyn entered. "You did it, baby," she said softly. "You really did it." Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. "We did it, Mama. Danica did it." The truth finally came out. Her mother reached for her hand. The IV tubes shifted slightly. "First time I've seen you smile in 15 years. First time I've felt like smiling," Evelyn admitted. They sat together in comfortable silence, holding hands like they used to when Evelyn was small. Outside the window, the city lights began twinkling on. "Remember how Danica used to sing in the kitchen?" her mother asked suddenly. "Making up silly songs while she did the dishes?" Evelyn laughed, a real laugh, surprising herself. That terrible one about the rubber gloves being octopus hands. They both chuckled, the sound strange and wonderful in the sterile room. For a moment, the weight of the past lifted slightly. "Get some rest, Mama," Evelyn said, standing reluctantly. "I'll be back tomorrow." The day's victories followed her home. Carter McLean was in custody at JFK Airport. Kendra's testimony had sparked 3 new federal investigations. Justice for Danica was the top trending topic worldwide. In her penthouse, Evelyn finally allowed herself to relax. She changed into silk pajamas, made chamomile tea, and climbed into bed. Her phone showed 847 unread messages. She set it to Do Not Disturb. The city hummed outside her windows as she settled against the pillows, emotional exhaustion seeping into her bones. For the first time in 15 years, she felt something like peace. The phone buzzed once more, breaking through the Do Not Disturb setting. An emergency alert. Evelyn reached for it sleepily. The message read, "Fire. Bishop residence. The phone slipped from Evelyn's trembling fingers. She lunged out of bed, nearly tripping over her silk pajamas. Her childhood home, where her mother's nurse stayed during recovery, was burning. "No, no, no," she whispered, yanking on jeans and grabbing her keys. Her private elevator opened to reveal Nia, already there, phone pressed to her ear. "Emergency services are en route. Your security team's 4 minutes out." They raced through the lobby. Evelyn's driver had the car running. She jumped in before he could open the door. "Break every traffic law," she ordered. Red and blue lights pulsed against the night sky as they approached her old neighborhood in Queens. The modest 2-story house where she and Danica had grown up was now a blazing skeleton against the darkness. Flames licked out of shattered windows. Black smoke billowed up. Evelyn stumbled out of the car. "My mother? Where's my mother?" A paramedic grabbed her arm. "Critical condition. St. Mary's Hospital. They're working on her now." Through the chaos, Evelyn saw her mother's nurse being treated for smoke inhalation. The woman was sobbing. It came through the kitchen window. A bottle with fire. "I couldn't." Fire investigators were already examining the scene. One called Evelyn over to show her the remains of a Molotov cocktail. The glass had mostly melted, but the rag reeked of accelerant. "Professional job," he said grimly. They knew exactly where to throw it for maximum damage. Evelyn walked through what remained of her childhood home in a daze. The kitchen where Danica used to sing. The living room where they did homework. The stairs they slid down on cardboard boxes. All ash now. Something crunched under her foot. She bent down and picked up a charred picture frame. Through the cracked, soot-stained glass, she could make out herself and Danica at her high school graduation. Their mother stood between them, beaming with pride. "Ms. Bishop!" Nia's voice was urgent. "Look at this." On the only intact exterior wall, spray-painted in dripping red. "Silence or ash." Evelyn's hands began to shake. Not from fear, from rage. "Get me to the hospital." The next hours passed in a blur of beeping machines and grim-faced doctors. Her mother was in critical condition. Severe smoke inhalation, second-degree burns. They had her stabilized. But the next 24 hours would be crucial. Evelyn sat by the bed, holding her mother's bandaged hand. Dawn was breaking outside the window when heavy footsteps entered the room. "Evelyn Bishop?" a stern voice said. She turned. 3 police officers stood in the doorway, accompanied by men in dark suits. "You're under arrest for inciting public violence and cyber-sabotage against McLean Holdings." "What?" Evelyn stood up. "That's absurd. We have evidence you planted false documents and manipulated social media to create civil unrest." One of the suits stepped forward, flashing an FBI badge. "Your attack on a legitimate business has caused millions in damages." "This is harassment," Nia protested, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling our lawyers." "Ma'am, step back," an officer warned. They grabbed Evelyn's arms, clicking handcuffs around her wrists. She didn't resist. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. "My mother is critically ill," she said coldly. "I need to stay with her. You can take that up with the judge." They started leading her out. Nia was frantically calling their legal team. Hospital staff watched in shock as they paraded Evelyn through the corridors. Outside, news cameras were already waiting. Someone had tipped them off. The flashbulbs exploded as they pushed her toward a police car. Her hair was still messy from sleep. She wore no makeup, but she held her head high. "Ms. Bishop, any comment on the charges? Did you fake evidence against the McLeans? What about the fire at your mother's house?" They shoved her into the back seat. Through the window, she saw Nia fighting to get closer, screaming something about rights and lawyers. At the precinct, they took her fingerprints and mugshot. She said nothing without counsel present. They put her in a holding cell, still in her hastily thrown-on clothes from the night before. Hours passed. Through a small TV in the common area, she saw Gordon McLean giving a press conference. He looked polished and concerned, every inch the wronged businessman. "While these events are tragic, we believe in the system," he said smoothly. "Justice will prevail. Mrs. Bishop's campaign of lies and manipulation must end before more people get hurt." The cell was freezing. Evelyn sat on the hard steel bench, her arms wrapped around herself. Her eyes were red from smoke and unshed tears. Her hands shook slightly, from cold, from fury, from fear for her mother. But her jaw was clenched tight. They thought this would break her. They thought she would crumble like their other victims. They were wrong. She thought of Danica in a cell like this, alone and afraid. She thought of her mother fighting for life in that hospital bed. She thought of Kendra's bruises, of countless others the McLeans had crushed. The guard walked past, rattling his keys. "Lawyer's been denied access till morning," he said with a smirk. "Guess you'll have to get comfortable." Evelyn said nothing. She stared straight ahead, her mind already working, planning, calculating. They'd taken her phone, her freedom, nearly her mother. But they couldn't take her resolve. The cell was silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and distant voices. Outside her tiny window, the city was waking up to news of her arrest. The McLeans thought they'd won. They had no idea what was coming. 2 days had passed in that freezing cell when the guard's keys rattled again. This time, his smirk was gone. "Bishop, you're out." He opened the door with obvious reluctance. Evelyn stood slowly, her muscles stiff from the hard bench. Her lawyer waited in processing, along with a tall, elegant woman in a tailored suit, Veronica Hayes, CEO of Hayes Ventures, and Evelyn's former mentor. "Emergency bond hearing," her lawyer explained, handing over release papers. "Judge Watkins was very interested in the timing of your arrest." Veronica's eyes were sharp with controlled anger. "Cars waiting. We need to talk." Outside, reporters swarmed like hungry wolves, but Veronica's security team carved a path through them to a waiting Mercedes. Once inside, Evelyn finally let out a shaky breath. "How much was bail?" she asked. $2 million. Veronica waved it off like pocket change. "But that's not what you need to worry about. Check your phone." Evelyn's temporary replacement phone lit up with hundreds of notifications. Her heart stopped when she saw the headlines. "Virion Board votes to remove Bishop as CEO. Tech Titans fall from grace. Police investigate Bishop for racketeering. They did it while I was in holding," Evelyn said quietly. "Couldn't even wait 48 hours. Your chief financial officer led the vote. 7 board members sided with him." Veronica's voice was tight with disgust. "They're calling it an emergency preservation of shareholder value." Through the tinted windows, Evelyn watched her city pass by. The same streets where she'd built her empire, where she'd promised Danica she'd make something of herself. Now it was all ash, just like her mother's house. "Mom?" she asked. "Stable. Still sedated, but the doctors are optimistic." Veronica hesitated. "Your penthouse was raided this morning. They had a warrant. Claimed they were looking for evidence of corporate espionage." Evelyn closed her eyes. "They won't find anything. Everything important is somewhere else." "Good. Because we're going somewhere else, too." The car turned onto a private road in Westchester, winding through old-growth trees until they reached a sprawling estate. Colonial architecture, perfectly manicured grounds, old money written in every brick. The kind of place that had probably never welcomed someone who looked like Evelyn, until Veronica bought it. Inside, 8 women waited in a wood-paneled study. Evelyn recognized each face. Patricia Chen, media mogul. Diana Williams, civil rights attorney. Regina Torres, real estate developer. Carol Bennett, retired federal judge. And more, each one a power player who'd broken barriers and built empires. No one spoke as Evelyn entered. They didn't need to. Their presence said everything. "We've been watching," Veronica said simply. "We've seen this playbook before. Rich white family thinks they can destroy a black woman who dared to challenge them. They use their money, their connections, They're pet politicians, but they've never faced someone like you, Patricia added. Or all of us. Evelyn set her briefcase on the mahogany table, the one Kendra had given her before everything exploded. She'd kept it safe through her arrest, hidden where the McLeans would never think to look. Everything's here, she said, opening it. Their entire trust infrastructure, shell companies, offshore accounts, dummy corporations, real estate holdings registered to their housekeepers' dead relatives. She spread out documents like battle plans. This property development is registered in Panama, but the money flows through Qatar. This one's hidden under their gardener's name. He died in 1987, but they're still using his Social Security number. Diana Williams picked up a file, her legal mind already dissecting weaknesses. Multiple violations of RICO statutes, tax fraud, wire fraud, election finance violations through these fake PACs. And this. Evelyn pulled out Danica's prison badge, preserved in a plastic sleeve. This is why they're terrified. Not just of me, of all of us. Because we know, we remember, we don't go away. She pinned the badge to her wrinkled blouse. The photo showed Danica's face, young and frightened, but her eyes still fierce. I don't need your help, Evelyn said quietly. I need your power, your influence, your reach. I need every connection, every favor, every piece of leverage you've earned. Because this isn't just about the McLeans anymore. She stood straight, her voice finding its strength again. This is about every girl like Danica, every woman they thought they could silence, every empire they thought they could steal. The room was absolutely still. These women hadn't gotten where they were by being sentimental. They dealt in cold, hard strategy. But they also knew the truth. You could play their game, follow their rules, build everything they said you should, and they'd still try to burn it all down the moment you became a threat. What do you need? Veronica asked. Evelyn began pointing to specific documents. Patricia, I need your media outlets to start digging into these shell companies. Diana, draft RICO complaints for each jurisdiction where they operate. Regina, analyze every property transaction for housing discrimination patterns. She moved around the table, assigning tasks like a general deploying troops. These women didn't need to be convinced or inspired. They needed targets, strategies, objectives. They think I fell, Evelyn said, touching Danica's badge. Let's show them what rising looks like. Dawn crept over Veronica Hayes's Westchester estate, painting the wood-paneled study in soft amber light. The assembled women had been working through the night, their determination burning brighter than their fatigue. Empty coffee cups and half-eaten pastries littered the massive oak table, where tablets displayed complex financial records and legal documents. Evelyn stood at the head of the table, her posture straight despite her wrinkled clothes and the weight of the past few days. Veronica Hayes sat to her right, scrolling through documents with laser focus. Kendra Shaw, still sporting bruises from the garage attack, occupied the left. Nia worked her tablet with fierce efficiency, while 6 prominent black women CEOs studied their own screens with practiced precision. Before the gala, Evelyn began, her voice clear and steady, I made arrangements, the kind you make when you know they'll try to take everything. She nodded to Nia, who distributed digital copies of a trust document. 49% of Virion Technologies was transferred into an irrevocable trust. Smart, Veronica commented, scanning the document. Triggered by removal under duress. The trustees are all here in this room, Evelyn continued, plus 5 others who've faced similar attacks from white corporate raiders. I chose people they'd never suspect of working together. Patricia Chen, the media mogul, looked up from her tablet. This is beautifully constructed. They can't touch it without exposing their own illegal practices. The board thinks they won by forcing me out, Evelyn said, bringing up a series of charts on the main screen. But they forgot to read their own company bylaws. Article 7, Section 3 specifically prohibits emergency removal of a founder without a supermajority of shareholders. Diana Williams, the civil rights attorney, allowed herself a small smile. And with 49% voting as a bloc, they can't reach that threshold, Nia finished, her fingers flying across her keyboard. The trust paperwork is already filed with the SEC, time-stamped and ironclad. Kendra shifted in her seat, wincing slightly from her injuries. I've prepared my full testimony about Carter McLean. Everything from Danica's assault to the attack in the garage, plus documentation of his involvement in the firebombing. The room grew silent at the mention of the fire. Evelyn's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. The RICO charges are ready? Diana nodded, pulling up a complex flowchart. We've mapped every shell company, every illegal transaction. The pattern is clear. Fraud, money laundering, witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. The firebombing gives us the violence predicates we need for RICO charges to stick. The warrants are being prepared quietly, Veronica added. Judge Carol Bennett is handling them personally. No leaks, no warnings. Regina Torres, the real estate developer, studied property documents on her screen. I've identified 37 instances of housing discrimination, all tied directly to Gordon McLean's shadow companies. The pattern is undeniable. And the media strategy? Evelyn turned to Patricia. Coordinated release across all platforms. The moment the arrests begin, we go live with the full story. No speculation, no spin, just hard evidence and Kendra's testimony. We'll break it simultaneously across print, digital, and broadcast. Nia raised her hand slightly. The trust vote is ready. One click, and we reclaim board control. Your reinstatement as CEO will be immediate and binding. Evelyn studied the faces around the table. These women had built empires of their own, fought battles most couldn't imagine. Now they were united, weapons drawn, ready for war. Review the sequence, she commanded. I want 0 gaps they can exploit. Veronica stood, taking control of the main display. 5 a.m. Trust files, SEC documents, asserting voting rights. 5:15. Emergency board meeting convened electronically. 5:30. Vote to reinstate you as CEO. 5:45. Federal agents execute search warrants at McLean Properties. 6 a.m. Patricia continued. Media embargo lifts. We flood every channel with evidence, testimony, and documentation. By 6:30, the story will be impossible to contain or control. The McLeans will try to spin it, Diana warned. They'll claim persecution, play victim, cry reverse discrimination. Let them, Kendra said firmly. I've got videos of Carter bragging about Danica. Audio of Annabeth arranging the cover-up. Their own words will bury them. Evelyn touched Danica's badge, still pinned to her blouse. The metal was warm from her body heat, like a constant reminder of purpose. She studied the intricate web of evidence and action plans displayed across the screens. Years of planning, months of positioning, all coming down to the next few hours. Nia, she said quietly, are the servers ready? Triple redundant backups, encrypted, distributed across secure locations, Nia confirmed. They can't touch our data or communications. Kendra, you're safe here? Kendra nodded. Veronica's security team is better than the Secret Service. I'm not going anywhere until it's done. The room hummed with controlled energy, the quiet before the storm. These women understood power, not just how to get it, but how to use it, how to turn it against those who thought they owned it exclusively. Evelyn looked at her assembled allies, each one a testament to resilience, to refusing to stay silent or small. No statements yet, she said firmly. No warnings, no threats. Let them hear the sirens first. As dawn broke over Manhattan, the first rays of sunlight glinted off the glass and steel facade of McLean Holdings's headquarters. Early shift employees trudged toward the revolving doors, coffee cups in hand, many still yawning. The usual morning quiet shattered as a convoy of black SUVs and federal vehicles screeched to a halt, lights flashing against the building's reflective windows. Federal agents! Everyone stay where you are! The commanding voice echoed across the plaza as dozens of armed agents poured from vehicles, badges gleaming. Security guards reached for their radios, but quickly raised their hands as agents stormed the lobby. Employees froze mid-step, spilling coffee and dropping briefcases. Some fumbled for phones, recording as agents methodically secured the entrance. This is a federal raid pursuant to warrant number 2749. B, announced the lead agent, holding up documentation. All employees are to step aside and present identification. This building is now under federal control. Teams of agents moved with practiced efficiency, sweeping floor by floor. In the server room, tech specialists began downloading and securing data. Financial crimes investigators wheeled out boxes of documents from the accounting department. The click of handcuffs echoed through corner offices as executives were detained for questioning. On the top floor, Gordon McLean stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the chaos unfold 40 stories below. His hands trembled slightly as he poured himself a scotch. "Gordon McLean!" The office doors burst open. "Federal agents! Hands where we can see them!" The crystal tumbler slipped from his grasp, shattering on imported marble. Gordon turned slowly, his face ashen. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes, sir. You're under arrest for wire fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy." An agent approached with handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent." Across town, in a luxury high-rise overlooking Central Park, Carter McLean stuffed cash and documents into a leather duffel bag. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he grabbed a passport from his safe. A clever forgery he'd prepared years ago. The elevator dinged. "No, no, no," he muttered, rushing for the fire escape. But agents were already there, weapons drawn. "Going somewhere, Mr. McLean!" Carter dropped the bag, raising his hands. "I want my lawyer. I'm not saying a word without—" "Save it," the agent cut him off, roughly securing the cuffs. "We've got your recorded confession about the Bishop girl and the firebombing. You're done talking." Meanwhile, at the exclusive Orchid Day Spa in the Hamptons, Annabeth McLean reclined in a massage chair, cucumber slices over her eyes. The spa's sound system played gentle ocean waves until heavy footsteps interrupted the peaceful atmosphere. "What is the meaning of this?" Annabeth demanded as the cucumbers were knocked aside. "I'm a member here. Do you know who—" "Annabeth McLean, you're under arrest for conspiracy, witness tampering, and accessory to assault." The female agent was unmoved by Annabeth's spluttering protests. "This is ridiculous. I demand you release me. I'll have your badge for this." Annabeth's shrieks echoed through the spa as they led her out in her robe, other patrons recording on their phones. In a secure conference room at Veronica Hayes' estate, Evelyn and her allies watched multiple live feeds of the raids. News helicopters circled McLean Holdings, capturing footage of executives being escorted out in handcuffs. Social media exploded with videos of the arrests. "Release the archives," Evelyn commanded softly. Nia nodded, pressing a key. Within minutes, thousands of documents went public. Emails, financial records, surveillance footage, all meticulously organized and annotated. But the centerpiece was Danica's prison confession video, now digitally enhanced and crystal clear. On screens across America, Danica's tear-streaked face appeared. "Carter McLean attacked me. When I threatened to report it, Annabeth McLean came to my cell. She said, if I stayed quiet, my family would be taken care of. If I didn't—" The video cut to security footage of Annabeth sliding an envelope through prison bars. Former McLean Holdings employees began calling news stations, sharing stories of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. The company's stock plummeted to record lows as trading was suspended. Outside McLean Holdings, the crowd of protesters swelled. Many held signs with Danica's photo. Their cheers grew deafening as Gordon McLean emerged between federal agents, his tailored suit wrinkled, his usual arrogance replaced by visible fear. "Ms. Bishop," Nia reported, checking her tablet. The prosecutor just confirmed Carter McLean's direct involvement in the arson attack on your mother's home. They found payment records and text messages ordering the hit. Evelyn's hands clenched, but her voice remained steady. "Show me Carter." The main screen switched to live footage outside his building. Carter McLean, disheveled and panic-stricken, was being walked to a waiting police cruiser. His designer clothes couldn't hide his trembling. News cameras swarmed, reporters shouting questions. For a brief moment, Carter looked directly into the nearest camera. His eyes were wild, searching, as if he could see through the lens to all the people watching his downfall. Then, like a switch being flipped, the fight drained from him. His shoulders slumped. He ducked his head and allowed himself to be placed in the back of the cruiser. 3 weeks had passed since the raids. Inside the federal district court in Lower Manhattan, every wooden bench creaked under the weight of spectators. Journalists filled the left side, their pencils poised. Civil rights activists and corporate whistleblowers packed the right. Armed marshals stood at every exit. Evelyn Bishop sat in the front row beside Kendra Shaw, both women dressed in crisp suits. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The evidence would speak for itself. "The court calls Kendra Shaw to the stand," announced Judge Patricia Martinez, her voice cutting through the tension. Kendra rose, squeezed Evelyn's shoulder, and walked to the witness box. After being sworn in, she faced the crowded courtroom with unwavering resolve. "Ms. Shaw, please describe your role at McLean Holdings," the prosecutor began. "I was Executive Vice President of Operations from 2015 to 2021, Kendra stated clearly. "I oversaw internal processes, including HR and compliance. And during that time, what patterns of behavior did you observe?" Kendra's testimony unfolded like a methodical dissection of corruption. She detailed systematic discrimination in hiring, describing how qualified minority candidates were flagged with red dots in the computer system. She revealed meetings where Gordon McLean explicitly ordered demographics reports to ensure certain floors remained prestigious enough. And what about incident reports involving Carter McLean? There were 17 harassment complaints filed internally, Kendra recalled. All were marked resolved within 24 hours. The complainants were either terminated or transferred to remote offices. The defense attorney tried to paint Kendra as a disgruntled ex-employee, but her documentation was immaculate. Every claim was backed by saved emails, recorded conversations, and notarized affidavits from other witnesses. Next came the fire investigators. Chief Marshal Davidson approached the stand carrying sealed evidence bags. "The accelerant used in the Bishop residence arson," he testified, holding up a charred container, "matches this specialized compound purchased by McLean Security Services 2 days before the attack." He displayed purchase orders bearing Carter McLean's signature. The courtroom murmured. Evelyn's jaw tightened as she remembered her mother's hospital room. Then came the moment everyone had been dreading and anticipating: Danica's prison footage. The lights dimmed. A projector hummed to life. The image showed a young woman in an orange jumpsuit, her face bruised but dignified. "State your name for the record," said an off-screen voice. "Danica Bishop." Several jurors visibly flinched at how young she looked. One elderly woman dabbed her eyes. "Please describe the events of June 15, 2008. Danica's voice trembled, but remained clear as she recounted the assault at the McLean summer house. How Carter cornered her in the pool house. How she fought back, scratching his face. How security dragged her away while she screamed for help. And what happened next? "Mrs. McLean, Annabeth, came to see me in jail," Danica continued. "She said if I stayed quiet, my family would be protected. If I didn't—" She broke down, crying. The video cut to security footage from the prison. Annabeth McLean, elegant even in the harsh fluorescent lighting, slid a thick envelope through the bars. Her voice was perfectly preserved by the prison's audio system. "Be smart, dear. This can all go away. Or it can get much, much worse. Your sister has such a promising future. Would be a shame to ruin it." In the present-day courtroom, Annabeth McLean slumped in her chair, her usual poise shattered. Gordon stared straight ahead, expressionless. Carter buried his face in his hands. During cross-examination, Carter cracked under the prosecutor's relentless questioning. "Did you assault Danica Bishop?" I... Carter glanced at his mother, who had always protected him. But she couldn't help him now. "Yes," he whispered. Then louder, "Yes. But Mom said she'd handle everything. She always handled everything." "And the arson attack on the Bishop residence?" "I didn't mean—" Carter choked on a sob. "It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone, just scare them." Gordon McLean tried to maintain his corporate demeanor during his testimony, but the prosecution's evidence was overwhelming. They displayed board meeting minutes where he authorized payments to shell companies that funded the cover-ups. His signature appeared on transfers that coincided with police department donations after Danica's arrest. "Mr. McLean, did you approve these payments?" "Those are routine business matters," Gordon deflected. "Routine business matters that coincidentally aligned with every instance of your son's misconduct?" Gordon's careful facade cracked. "I protected my family's interests. That's what a father does." After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The forewoman stood, hands shaking slightly, as she read the verdicts. "On the count of sexual assault, we find the defendant Carter McLean guilty. On the counts of conspiracy and witness tampering, we find the defendant Annabeth McLean guilty. On the counts of racketeering and fraud, we find the defendant Gordon McLean guilty." Judge Martinez's gavel cracked like thunder. For sentencing, this court orders the following: Carter McLean, 15 years in federal prison. Annabeth McLean, 8 years for conspiracy and corruption. Gordon McLean, house arrest pending appeal, with immediate forfeiture of all McLean Holdings assets pending investigation. The courtroom erupted in muffled reactions. Reporters rushed for the exits. Annabeth collapsed into sobs. Carter stared blankly ahead as marshals approached with handcuffs. Through it all, Evelyn sat perfectly still. Then, slowly, deliberately, she released the breath she'd been holding for 15 years. Her exhale carried the weight of decades, of silence, of rage, of grief, of vindication. Kendra reached for her hand. Neither woman moved as the courtroom slowly emptied around them. Evening shadows stretched across the courthouse steps as camera flashes pierced the dimming light. A forest of microphones jutted forward from the assembled media crowd. The air crackled with anticipation. After the historic verdict, everyone wanted to hear from Evelyn Bishop. Wearing a tailored navy suit that radiated quiet power, Evelyn approached the podium with measured steps. Her heels clicked against the marble, each step deliberate and grounding. Behind her stood a row of supporters, Kendra Shaw, Veronica Hayes, and the other women who had helped bring down the McLean empire. To her right, her mother sat in a wheelchair, elegant in a cream-colored dress, her hands folded carefully in her lap. The clicking of cameras intensified as Evelyn took her position. She didn't shuffle papers or check notes. She simply stood, commanding attention through presence alone. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly across the courthouse plaza. "Today's verdict isn't about revenge," she began, her tone steady and resolute. "This was about accountability. For too long, power and privilege have served as shields against consequence. That ends now." She paused, letting the words settle. A few reporters tried shouting questions, but Evelyn continued undeterred. McLean Holdings will be dissolved under court order. Their assets, built through decades of discrimination and corruption, will be redirected into restitution funds for those they harmed. The majority will establish affordable housing initiatives in the very communities they once redlined and exploited. The announcement sent ripples through the crowd. Phones emerged as reporters rushed to break the news. Evelyn waited for the commotion to settle before continuing. "But this victory doesn't belong to me alone. It belongs to every woman who refused to stay silent, to every whistleblower who risked everything for truth, To every activist who kept fighting when the powerful tried to bury their voices. She turned slightly, acknowledging the row of women behind her. To Kendra Shaw, who gathered evidence at the risk of her life. To Veronica Hayes, who believed in justice when others counseled compromise. To every CEO and lawyer who stood with us when it would have been easier to look away. Thank you. Her voice softened then, thick with emotion but never breaking. Most of all, this belongs to my sister, Danica Bishop. She died because the McLeans believed their money could buy silence. They believed they could bury her truth. But today, her voice was finally heard. Evelyn's mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Several reporters looked down, momentarily dropping their professional detachment. The McLeans tried to paint me as angry, unstable, vindictive, Evelyn continued, steel returning to her voice. They were right about one thing. I was angry. But anger in the face of injustice isn't weakness. It's fuel. It's the spark that lights the path to change. Questions erupted from the crowd. Evelyn raised a hand, silencing them with quiet authority. She would answer only one. What happens next? She repeated, selecting a question from the chaos. A small smile touched her lips, not of triumph, but of determination. We build what they tried to burn. We create what they tried to destroy. We rise where they wanted us to fall. She gestured to her team. Virion Technologies will partner with minority-owned businesses to develop tech education programs in underserved communities. We're establishing the Danica Bishop Foundation to support assault survivors and fight systemic discrimination in the justice system. The work doesn't end with today's verdict. It begins. As she spoke, alerts flashed on reporters' phones. Markets were already responding. Virion stock had jumped 12 points in after-hours trading. The business headlines were shifting from scandal to transformation, from outrage to outcome. The McLeans believed their power made them untouchable, Evelyn said, drawing to a close. They believed money could bury truth. They were wrong. No one is above accountability. No fortune can hide injustice forever. That's not revenge. That's progress. She stepped back from the podium, the formal press conference complete. But instead of leaving, she turned to her mother. Sarah Bishop looked up at her daughter, tears gleaming in her eyes. Evelyn knelt beside the wheelchair, taking her mother's weathered hands in hers. The moment crystallized. Mother and daughter, survivor and defender, joined in quiet victory. The crowd fell silent, cameras lowering instinctively. Then, slowly, someone began to clap. The applause spread, building like a wave, echoing off the courthouse columns. Evelyn helped her mother stand carefully from the wheelchair. They embraced as the applause continued, neither speaking. They didn't need to. After 15 years of carried grief, of calculated patience, of relentless pursuit of justice, they could finally breathe free. The truth had emerged. Consequence had followed. Justice, so long delayed, had finally arrived, not with a bang or a shout, but with the quiet dignity of truth upheld and wrong made right. The Danica Bishop Justice Center gleamed in the evening light, its restored Art Deco facade a testament to transformation. The building, once a crown jewel in McLean Holdings' real estate empire, now served a higher purpose. Through the tall windows, warm light spilled onto the sidewalk as elegantly dressed guests arrived for the inaugural scholarship gala. Inside the grand hall, crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over round tables draped in midnight blue. Teachers, students, civil rights attorneys, and families filled the space with animated conversation. At one table, a group of law students eagerly discussed their upcoming internships with the center's legal aid program. At another, formerly incarcerated women shared stories of rebuilding their lives through the foundation's support. Nia Dalton, now COO of Virion Technologies, worked the room with practiced ease. Her promotion had come naturally. She'd more than proved herself during the McLean battle. She paused to check final details with the staff. her leadership style both commanding and compassionate. Near the entrance, Kendra Shaw signed copies of her book, Breaking McLean, Inside the Empire of Corruption. The investigative exposé had spent 28 weeks on the bestseller list, with proceeds funding advocacy work. Her hands bore faint scars from that night in the garage, but her smile was victorious. A wall-mounted screen quietly played the evening news. The caption read, "McLean Update. Annabeth McLean begins prison work program." The footage showed a humbled Annabeth in a food service uniform serving meals as part of her re-entry requirements. Another segment displayed Gordon McLean's mansion, where he remained under house arrest, his empire dismantled. A brief mention of Carter McLean's transfer to a maximum security federal facility rounded out the coverage. At precisely 8 o'clock, Evelyn Bishop approached the podium. She wore a simple black dress, accented only by a small gold pendant, Danica's last birthday gift to her. The room fell silent. "1 year ago," she began, "we proved that justice isn't just an ideal. It's a choice we make every day. Tonight, I'm announcing full funding for 2 new initiatives under the Danica Bishop Foundation." She outlined the programs: comprehensive support for wrongfully convicted women and seed funding for minority entrepreneurs. The details were impressive: legal representation, housing assistance, business mentorship, and educational grants. "These scholarships aren't charity," Evelyn continued. "They're investment in talent that systems of privilege tried to suppress, their belief in voices that wealth and power tried to silence." She gestured to the scholarship recipients seated throughout the room. "Look around. This is what justice looks like when we build it ourselves." The applause was thunderous, but Evelyn kept her remarks brief. She had learned that real power didn't need long speeches. Actions spoke louder. As the evening wound down, guests gradually departed. Staff began clearing tables. Nia coordinated the cleanup with quiet efficiency, pausing only to give Evelyn a knowing nod before heading out. Evelyn walked the halls alone, her heels echoing on the marble floors. The building held shadows of its past: ornate moldings, imported marble, brass fixtures. But its soul had been transformed. Where McLean Holdings once plotted luxury developments that would displace communities, classrooms now taught civil rights law. Former executive suites housed non-profit organizations. The basement vault had become an archive of social justice history. She stopped at the central atrium, where a bronze plaque caught the dim light. It bore Danica's name and likeness, along with a simple inscription: "Justice is not given. It is built brick by those who refuse to accept its absence." Evelyn traced the letters with her fingertips. There were no tears. She had cried enough in private moments. Instead, she felt the steady burn of purpose. The system hadn't saved Danica. It had failed her at every turn, corrupted by money and prejudice. But from that failure, Evelyn had forged something new. The Justice Center wasn't just a building or a foundation. It was a blueprint for change. Every day, its halls filled with people working to transform the legal system, support survivors, and empower communities. It was a living testament to the truth that justice, real justice, had to be built from the ground up. Walking through the administrative wing, Evelyn passed walls lined with newspaper headlines chronicling the McLean family's fall. They weren't displayed as trophies, but as reminders, proof that no power was truly untouchable when faced with organized resistance and documented truth. She reached the main entrance, where a security guard waited respectfully. Through the glass doors, the city lights sparkled against the darkening sky. Evelyn took one last look at the transformed space. The guard handed her the keys, solid brass, weighty with responsibility. Her fingers closed around them as she remembered another night. Another key, the one to her first apartment after Danica's death, when she'd promised herself she would find a way to make things right. She hadn't known then what form that justice would take. She only knew she wouldn't stop until she found it. The lock clicked shut, with satisfying finality. Evelyn stepped onto the sidewalk, her posture straight, her stride purposeful. No photographers documented this moment. No reporters sought quotes. This wasn't about headlines anymore. This was about the quiet, relentless work of building something lasting from the ashes of injustice. She walked into the night, each step grounded in hard-won victory. Behind her, the Justice Center stood as a beacon, its lights gradually dimming but its impact growing stronger with each passing day. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked 2 special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.